Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we're talking about Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg, who's recently been all over the news since he's been having these hearings at the US Senate and Congress. Basically, Zuckerberg has been called in by the government to answer their questions about Facebook and the recent controversy surrounding it, the biggest of which being the Cambridge Analytica scandal. For those who don't know, Facebook recently faced a scandal that came out of a data firm, Cambridge Analytica, where they used data improperly obtained from Facebook to build voter profiles. The news of this scandal from a week or so ago put Cambridge under investigation and thrust Facebook into its biggest crisis ever. And this of course put its leader, Mark Zuckerberg, in the hot seat too, figuratively and quite literally in the hot seat at these Senate hearings. And it's also worth noting that Zuckerberg's actual seat for the questioning, well, he had to use a booster seat, guys. That's right, little guy Marky Z needed a little boost in order to properly sit up with the big boys at the Senate. How quaint. Luckily for us though, this picture is quite enough for him to lose his 2020 bid for presidency. So it's been a long couple of days for Zuckerberg. A lot of important cutting questions have been asked of him over the last few days. And the first thing I want to go over is some footage of Ted Cruz grilling the Facebook czar himself. And you can say what you want about lying Ted, but the guy really dug into Mark here. Check this out.
Mr. Zuckerberg, does Facebook consider itself a neutral public forum?
Senator, we consider ourselves to be a platform for all ideas.
Let me ask the question again. Does Facebook consider itself to be a neutral public forum? And representatives of your company have given conflicting answers on this. Are you a First Amendment speaker expressing your views, or are you a neutral public forum allowing everyone to speak?
Zuck is clearly dodging the question. That's why Cruz has to keep repeating it and insisting he answer. The reason being, Zuckerberg doesn't want to admit that Facebook has become a public forum, because then it will need to be regulated more and become more neutral, which means Mark will lose a lot of control. And of course, he wouldn't like that. But I think it is safe to say that Facebook is a public forum that should strive to be as neutral as possible. It's basically a monopoly on social media too. It's got control of all the space, besides a few minor takeaways from Twitter and YouTube. And I might just leave Facebook alone on this if they weren't being so terrible and they weren't becoming known to censor conservatives and play favorites with liberals.
There is certain content that clearly we do not allow, right? Hate speech, terrorist content, nudity, anything that makes people feel unsafe in the community. From that perspective, that's why we generally try to refer to what we do as a platform for all ideas.
That's a load of bullshit. Facebook is a liberal shilling site who acts as right-wingers they don't like. And then they use these bogus buzzwords like hate speech to justify it, saying people are endangered by right-wingers? Get a fucking grip, Zuck. You just don't like what they have to say. It's not hate speech, it's different speech that you don't agree with. And what the fuck even is hate speech anyway? I don't know. Free speech is free speech if you ask me. And judging by this other clip, he has some trouble defining hate speech himself. Take a look.
Can you define hate speech?
Senator, I think that this is a really hard question. And I think it's one of the reasons why we struggle with it. There are certain definitions that we have around calling for violence or
Let's just agree on that. If somebody's calling for violence, that shouldn't be there.
Right. Calling to violence is the easy one. That's what bolsters up the whole idea of hate speech to begin with. And then lefties like Zuckerberg expand that umbrella and start including anything they don't like under hate speech too, comparing violence to ideas they disagree with, when really they're not on the same level. And that's why Zuckerberg can't answer these questions directly or honestly. If he outright said something like speaking up for the Second Amendment and guns rights is hate speech, well, he would get laughed out of the room.
40% of Americans under age 35 tell pollsters they think the First Amendment is dangerous because you might use your freedom to say something that hurts somebody else's feelings. Guess what? There are some really passionately held views about the abortion issue on this panel today. Can you imagine a world where you might decide that pro-lifers are prohibited from speaking about their abortion views on your content, on your platform?
Yes, this is just another example of a topic which liberals will label their detractors as hate speech. If you're not a pro-abortion baby killer, you're inciting hate speech, and you deserve to be censored, to the left.
I certainly would not want that to be the case.
But it might really be unsettling to people who've had an abortion to have an open debate about that, wouldn't it?
It might be, but I don't think that would fit any of the definitions of what we have.
I don't know. You did say speech that makes people uncomfortable. Anything that offends anyone is almost hate speech at this point then. Well, anything that offends liberal snowflakes, that is.
As we're able to technologically shift towards especially having AI proactively look at content, I think that that's going to create massive questions for society about what obligations we want to require companies to fulfill. And I do think that that's a question that we need to struggle with as a country.
I don't know about you guys, but I don't want some robot-looking fake Android person like Zuckerberg using a fancy AI to censor our internet platforms. I feel like Zuck would side with the machine in this situation, or if we were in some sort of Terminator end of the world situation. If we're being honest, I don't think Mark has allegiance to humans.
I think violence has no place on your platform. Sex traffickers and human traffickers have no place on your platform. But vigorous debates, adults need to engage in vigorous debates.
Well put, Senator. I think hate speech is pretty easy to define when you put it that way. It's speech about violence, crimes, and sex trafficking stuff. What it's not is a tool to be used to censor conservatives who support the wrong political party. And I'm afraid that's what Facebook is leaning towards. When its AI super robots are out there trolling for people to ban. Sure, they take out the murderers and criminals and stuff too, but they're also censoring right-wingers. And now that we've gone over the hate speech part and Zuck's inability to define it, let's go ahead and get back to the Ted Cruz video. He's got some more good zingers for us.
The predicate for Section 230 immunity under the CDA is that you are a neutral public forum. Do you consider yourself a neutral public forum, or are you engaged in political speech, which is your right under the First Amendment?
Well, Senator, our goal is certainly not to engage in political speech. I'm not that familiar with the specific legal language of the law that you speak to, so...
More dodging and looking like Data from Star Trek The Next Generation. Beep, beep, boop, boop, beep, boop, boop, beep, boop, boop. That's more of an R2-D2 sound, but you know what I mean.
Well, Mr. Zuckerberg, I will say there are a great many Americans who I think are deeply concerned that Facebook and other tech companies are engaged in a pervasive pattern of bias and political censorship. There have been numerous instances with Facebook. In May of 2016, Gizmodo reported that Facebook had purposely and routinely suppressed conservative stories from trending news.
This is it. This is as close as we're going to get to Mark Zuckerberg getting called out for his biased left-wing liberal bullshit. Everyone knows they're censoring conservative voices on there, and now it's finally out in the open. Thanks for calling him out, Ted.
Including stories about CPAC, including stories about Mitt Romney, including stories about the Lois Lerner IRS scandal, including stories about Glenn Beck. In addition to that, Facebook has initially shut down the Chick-fil-A Appreciation Day page, has blocked a post of a Fox News reporter.
Yeah, why in the hell would Facebook block a Chick-fil-A appreciation page? I mean, I know why really. It's because that company is run by religious right-wingers. That's why Chick-fil-A is always closed on Sundays, but that shouldn't be why companies and pages get banned on a public forum website like Facebook. Being religious doesn't endanger anyone. Supporting right-wing policies isn't hate speech. It's just the wrong speech for Zuckerberg and Facebook.
And most recently blocked Trump supporters Diamond and Silk's page with 1.2 million Facebook followers after determining their content and brand were, quote, unsafe to the community. To a great many Americans, that appears to be a pervasive pattern of political bias. Do you agree with that assessment?
Diamond and Silk get a mention here. Hell yeah. But again, I have to ask, how the hell are two base black ladies dangerous to the Facebook community? Their ban is wholly uncalled for, if you ask me. They're just Trump supporters who want to make America great again. They're not terrorists. They're not inciting violence or anything like that. Taking down their page is some real 1984 Big Brother level censorship, and I don't like it. And this doesn't even mention the fact that if people are offended by these conservative pages, you know what they can do? Don't go on there. Don't go to the pages and don't read what they post. If you don't like it, I mean, it's really that simple. We don't need Facebook or YouTube or Twitter for that matter. We don't need big tech companies telling us who we're able to watch or not. Just put everyone out there and then let the people follow the pages they prefer. And they can ignore the pages they don't like. I don't see how it needs to go any further than this. These social media companies don't need to ban pages they deem unsafe or hate speech. Not like this. People just need to not view the pages they don't like or the ones they find offensive. No one is forcing anyone to go on a Diamond and Silk's page. So there's no reason to ban it if some people get offended by it. In fact, you're doing a rather big disservice to the community, since there are over 1 million other people who enjoy that content and want to watch it. Facebook would rather take a page away from 1 million people who like it, so long as they don't offend a few hundred or thousand SJWs.
In your testimony, you say that you have 15 to 20,000 people working on security and content review. Do you know the political orientation of those 15 to 20,000 people engaged in content review?
I think I'm willing to bet they're about 99% left-wing Democrats. And I'm pretty sure there's no left-wing groups or politicians getting banned on Facebook either. Ted Cruz's point here is really digging deep. It's pretty clear Facebook says they're unbiased and they're banning hate speech when really they're radically liberal and they're banning conservative speech. And then claiming those pages are dangerous and hate speech when they're really not.
So as CEO, have you ever made hiring or firing decisions based on political positions or what candidates they supported?
No.
Why was Palmer Luckey fired?
That is a specific personnel matter that seems like it would be inappropriate to
You just
speak
made
to
a
here.
specific representation that you didn't make decisions based on political views.
Well,
Is that accurate?
I can commit that it was not because of a political view.
Uh-oh, Zuck got cucked right there. You see, Palmer Luckey became a Facebook employee in 2014 when Facebook acquired Oculus VR in a $3 billion deal. However, Luckey and Facebook parted ways last year after it was revealed that he was quietly funding efforts attacking Hillary Clinton and supporting Donald Trump in the run-up to the 2016 election. Luckey was also reportedly posting anti-Clinton messages on the social media site Reddit under a pseudonym. Facebook never admitted this firing was because Luckey had the wrong politics, but we all know that's not the case. And that's why Zuckerberg is freaking here and doesn't want to talk about it, especially not after he just claimed he didn't hire or fire anyone based on politics.
Do you feel it's your responsibility to assess users whether they are good and positive connections or ones that those 15 to 20,000 people deem unacceptable or deplorable?
Deplorable. Good choice of words, Ted. Turn that Hillary Clinton deplorable line right back around on the libtards. I like it. Let's see how the Zuck finishes here after something like that.
I think that you would probably agree that we should remove terrorist propaganda from the service. So that, I agree, I think is clearly bad activity that we want to get down, and we're generally proud of how well we do at that.
You should be proud of nothing, Mark. You took a fun, local website for college students and turned it into a big, boring global network that censors conservatives and promotes left-wing globalism to the extreme. Facebook used to be cool. I'll admit it. I signed up in the early years when it was still for students only. But by the time I was out of college and Facebook opened up to everyone, well, it was all downhill from there. Sure, it's nice to check messages on there and talk to friends and relatives, but that's nothing I can't do with a phone and texting. At this point, Facebook just makes a few things like that a little easier. Everything else on their gay dumb site is just terrible. Like the current state of the news feed there? Oh my god, give me a break. Might as well be watching CNN because Facebook is just as biased. Now, before we go, I just want to say one more thing about Zuckerberg. South Park was completely right about him last fall in their episode about it. I don't know if you guys remember that one, but Zuckerberg was running around South Park using his scary amount of information on people to help with his own evil plans. In case you missed it, here's a quick clip.
I am the founder and chairman of Facebook, but I also have a style that is completely unblockable. Now I see you're trying to use your style over mine. Now you try to block me. Now you've learned that you cannot block me, yes?
So South Park was ahead of the game once again. Not only did they nail Zuckerberg's stilted, alien-like mannerisms, they also pointed out the problems with him and Facebook months ago, well before this recent scandal and the hearings took place. Facebook has a crazy amount of information on everyone. That and they're known to be ban-heavy, especially toward right-wingers. Combine that with Zuckerberg and his creepiness and we got a pretty big problem here. Now, I won't say they should take Facebook away from him, but Zuckerberg does need to be called out over and over for all this bullshit. So it has been great to see the Senate and Congress doing this week. And let's just hope this is not all for show. I hope more than words and hot air come out of this situation. And maybe one day Facebook could be the free, unbiased public forum Mark Zuckerberg claims it to be. That and possibly Facebook could bounce back and be more useful and, dare I say, fun again? What do you guys think about Facebook? What about Mark Zuckerberg and his booster chair questioning sessions? Sure, he wasn't under oath and over 80% of the politicians questioning him were also given political funding by him, but at least this is a start. Comment your thoughts on all this below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. See y'all next time.